Hey there, John here. So I'm here to give you a little bit of a rundown on what's called the dangerous source. What is the source, you may ask? Well, fantastic monitor controller from Dangerous Music. So essentially, if I was to ask you a question, what's the most important or most integral part of your recording setup, whether it be mixing, mastering, recording, that sort of thing, what would you tell me? Studio monitors, converters. These things are important. They do play an important role, but realistically, the most important part of what's happening is the actual monitor controller, and not many people think about that. We're making decisions based on what we're hearing, so if we're hearing something that's colored, we're obviously making the wrong decision because we're at a disadvantage from the get-go. With that said, Dangerous Music essentially yields 100% transparency, so what we put into it is what we're going to get out of it. So let's talk about the configuration of the box. Well, we have 4 inputs, okay, 2 of which are analog, 2 of which are digital. We'll talk about those in a second. And we have 2 outputs, 2 sets of speaker outputs, so we can have 2 outputs there. Now, as far as the sections of the box, we've got a headphone source and we've got a speaker source. So a really cool feature on this box allows me to monitor separate inputs simultaneously from the headphone source to the speaker source. So say if I choose analog 1 here, I'd be able to choose USB there, that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. Now let's get back to those inputs. I just want to kind of get a little more specific with them. So the first 2 are analog. First one, XLR, hybrid TRS connections left and right. The second one is actually going to be a 3.5 millimeter for your iPods, iPads, consumer devices, that sort of thing. Now, as for the digital inputs, the first digital input is AES-EBU or SPDIF, okay, and that second digital input is a USB connection, which has direct connectivity to your PC or Mac or anything of the sort. Now, these digital inputs actually support 24-bit 192, which is a fantastic feature. Now, they're only D to A. There is no A to D about this. Again, they're only reference converters used to monitor. All right. So, with that said, this section gives us 2 sets of outputs for our headphones, which is controlled on this 1-level control here. All right, pretty powerful headphone output, about 20 watts on the output, so it's not powerful to blow you away, more powerful for, say inspiration, that sort of thing. You don't reach that natural sort of compression once you start getting close to the top, if you start to get close to the top, because again, there's a pretty decent amount of power here. Our speaker source, obviously, we talked about the 2 sets of speaker outputs on our 1-level control over here. Now, I want to talk about a couple of cool features that we have with this source here. One is toggle versus moment toggle. So, as you can see, analog 1, essentially, I can latch that on, all right? When I hit that button for less than a second, it's going to latch, it'll stay on. Now, we do have a feature called moment toggle. So essentially what moment toggle allows us to do is if I wanted to audition an input for a short amount of time, I can hold this for more than 1 second, and then once I release it, it'll actually shut off. So that holds true for all of the inputs, okay? Latch, moment toggle. Same thing for the speaker outputs as well. Same deal. Okay? So that's a great feature, especially if you have a sub on the second output. Not necessarily meant for 2 sets of speaker on the output, but more for a subwoofer, that sort of thing. Another cool thing about the Dangerous source is I just want to briefly touch on setup mode, and that allows us to do a couple of cool things here. As you can see, this input section, we can actually monitor all of these inputs simultaneously. All right. Now we can turn that on or off in setup mode. So how we get there is we go to analog 2 and AES SPDIF at the same time, and you can see us start bouncing back and forth there. So look at the orange circle for each section. You can see the speaker section is selected and the headphone source is selected. So essentially what that means is I can now run this input section, all the inputs simultaneously. I can now run the speaker outputs simultaneously. Speaker source, we don't have that selected. So what that means is it's going to be one or the other as far as inputs go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deselect all of these guys anyhow, and then we'll pop out of setup mode by hitting one of the blinking lights. And now you can see I don't have the option to run any of those simultaneously. It's either one or the other. So just a couple small little tips about the box, and you should definitely check it out. Do your rig good.